Okay, so this is my experience being a server. Well, I'm not a server right now, but my experience when I was a server. And I really want to emphasize that because everyone's going to view things differently, of course. And this is just my experience. Before I was a server, I started being a host for like a couple of months. So I feel like that really helped me get an idea of what to expect. Just because as a host, I could take to-go orders, so I could like talk to the customer and be like, hey, what are you gonna like today? I would literally be talking to them and taking their order as if I was like a server, right? What I would recommend is to learn your menu and get an idea of drinks, because or just know how to ask for help, because I was not afraid to ask for help. I would ask for help in the sense to be asking, hey, like, what's in this drink? What type of liquor, like this has rum, gin, whatever. Just get really familiar with the menu, both food and drinks, and the happy hour times if y'all have that, like the hours. But I think what's really cool about customer service job is that it enhances your confidence and your people skills, right? But specifically being a server, I feel like you're spending more time with them, because when you're like in retail or something, it's more of like they're paying for stuff, you're scanning, you could make interaction right then and there, and then they pay and they leave. But when you're a server, you're like with them like during their whole time meeting, from the intro to the saying goodbye, have a great day. I've also seen people like come up with different nicknames for themselves. Like they literally refer to themselves as a specific name. And it's one, to like not say their real name, two, just to make them feel more comfortable. And if people like you, they're gonna be like, hey, can I sit with this person again? And yeah, that's just like a little fun thing. I'm just gonna be throwing like random stuff up there. Boom. That was really bad. Money wise, that's like one of the most important things that you're probably searching in this video. I will say, write down in a notebook or something like how much you make a day, and then see if it actually is good. Because one day, let's say you make really good money, you're like, I made 300 something, 200 something, and then another day you made like $80. So technically what you made from that last day would go on to this other day. Just be seeing how much, keep like a record of how much you're making, just so you can know if it's actually convenient for you to stay there, or if you should look at another location. I also want to bring up that every restaurant could be different. Some people, they give you checks, like they wait until the end of the week or bi-weekly, depends on how they pay you, and then they're like, okay, we're not going to give you anything until that day, right? And that, for me, what was happening, what I liked about it was that they would give me cash every day. So every day I would have cash. And at the end of the day, they would do tip out, if you don't know what that means. Again, I worked at a sushi restaurant, so they would like, from the money that I make, they would give a portion of it to the sushi people, to the kitchen people, I believe, for the drinks. Like they would just do like a small percentage. So if I made like 200 something, then at the end it could be like 180 or something. I don't remember exactly how much the percentage was. So you just like, whenever you're doing the interview to be a server, ask for the percentage of how much they tip out, just to see. Because some restaurants, they're really good at not taking that much money out. From what I made was $2 and something an hour plus my tip money. So I would get a check not a check. I would get it directly deposited into my account. Let's say it was like $60 a week. I don't remember. I really don't remember. But forever those $2 an hour into my direct deposit. So it was like a little like extra, because I would forget about it. I'd be like, oh yeah, I forgot I got that extra little money. But what a day-to-day consists of whenever you're a server, it depends if you're an opener or a closer, or maybe like in the middle, because you will have different tasks. So if I open, let's say I go in at 11, but the restaurant doesn't open until 11:30. If I'm opening and they schedule me at 11, that means for 30 minutes, I'm gonna be setting up stuff like cutting lemons, setting up the wasabi, like restocking mayo. I would restocking the ice. There's just little things that you have to do to set up that I didn't even get paid. It was like $2 an hour. And then I will, make my tip money. So if your schedule says you go in from 11 to 3, you're not going to be leaving exactly at 3 o'clock. Unless it's like really slow and you get lucky. But your schedule as a server your out time is not going to be exactly what it says. Because there was one time, well, multiple occasions, but I'll mention this one. It said that I left at 4, right? So right at 4, I got sat like a big party. It was like 8 people. And they ended up staying a little longer. And I just clocked out like at 6 something. So I stayed 2 hours past my time. Luckily, they tipped well. You can transfer tables, but sometimes you can't. Like your managers will not let you transfer them, or you just want to wait and you have to wait to get that extra tip from them. And you have to like clean your table. I will also mention that I think it's important to talk to everyone. Like whenever I was working there, I would talk to the cooks, I would talk to, of course, the bartenders. Just try to socialize with everyone, because one point or another, you're going to have to interact with them. Like it could be the smallest things. So one time I needed forks, right? And there was no more clean forks. So I had to ask the dishwasher if he can give me some clean forks. And then I went over to him, and luckily I know his name because I conversate with him. I'm like, hey, can I get some clean forks? Just to make it easier, because I could feel that intimidation when I have to ask for stuff, when I don't really talk to them, that I feel like, dang, like I have to I feel like I'm ordering them around, hey, can you do this? Again, being in the customer service will help you with your confidence, but it was still kind of new to be to ask in the kitchen, hey, can you give me an extra salmon and to go? Just a lot of communication that you have to be doing if the manager is busy or if just no one's there. Another thing, don't be afraid to ask for help. I mentioned that before, and I'll say it again, because there's so many people that can help you out, bro. Just be humble. It did help a lot, though, just being able to ask. A lot of restaurants will vary on how many tables you get. So let's say that wherever I worked, I think it was 4 tables at a time, or 5 tables. So what happens is you have a little chart, and in that chart, it has your section of where you're going to be sitting. So you have to learn the table numbers of your table. So let's say that right now I'm sitting at table 51, and then right next to me is table 52, and then so on. So I have 51, 52, 53, and 54. That's my section for the night. So in that chart, when I clock in, I look at that section. I'm like, okay, these are my tables. And then I know where I'm going to be having to look at. Sometimes it gets really busy and there's an extra table. And they're like, let's say that the whole restaurant is packed, right? Everyone has 4 tables. And then they're like, this person says, hey, I want to sit outside. There's a table outside that's available, but is there a server that can take it? We can, some managers are open to doing that. So they're like, okay, Cassandra, can you take this table outside? So now I have 5 tables and it's out of your section. So it's a lot of moving around and fast-paced environment, which I liked because time goes by faster. And when it's slow, you're just not making money. I did like that I could socialize with my coworkers. That's another good thing, that being in that type of industry, I made a lot of friends through that. I made good friends that I actually can tell them personal stuff. You could possibly forget things from tables. So let's say that table 51, they told me, hey, I'm ready to order. Okay, they're ready to order. Table 52, they're ready for the check. So you have to be really good at having a system to feel organized. Sometimes what I would do would be, let's say that this table already ordered, right? I print out the receipt. I have their check ready to go whenever they're ready, and I put it into my little notebook. And if they ask for it, I could just hand it to them. As to if you didn't have it ready already, then you would have to go back to the machine and print it out. Even though, yeah, it's not that time consuming, sometimes there's servers that are in the same machine. Like we would have in the restaurant I believe 3 or 4 computers for all the servers. So we'd have to be sharing that. And also we had these little things. They were called clovers. In my restaurant that I work at now, they're called toasts. But it's basically a machine where you cash people out. Sometimes we wouldn't have enough of those. Like try to have a system to where you think before they ask what they need, right? When they need their water refilled, like be observant of what your table is gonna ask for. If they're running out of, if they ordered spicy mayo, right, and then they have a little bit left, be like, hey, do you want more spicy mayo? You could suggest, do you want a dessert? Because when you suggest food, and I would do it with food or drinks that I genuinely liked. Like some people, I'm gonna be honest, some servers, they recommend a more expensive drink rather than their actual favorite drink. And to be honest, the thing about me, I was a little too truthful. Like there was some times where this couple asked me, hey, how's this sushi roll? And I told them, I'm like, honestly, I don't like it, but it's pretty popular. And because I said that, they were like, actually, never mind, I want to do this other roll. And I think they got an even cheaper roll. So that was, my consequence for being honest. I think I have suggested expensive plates, but I do like those expensive gifts, expensive dishes. Oh my god, thinking of Christmas already. Whenever a table doesn't like something or something goes wrong with the food, like let's say there's a hair in their dish, then what most likely happens is the server grabs their food, they tell the manager, and then the manager they comp off the dish. And it's bad for the restaurant. Some restaurants can be really strict about it, and mine was where like they wouldn't like that. I'd be like, oh, they didn't like this, but I couldn't control it. Like I would tell them, oh yeah, it's a little spicy or something, but if their taste buds don't like it, then they don't like what they ordered, and they're gonna have it comped off. So I would tell the manager, hey, they didn't like this, and they'd be like, they'd have to take it off. And I guess it has to do with something in the system. It definitely happens. Like I 100% guarantee that every person that I knew in that restaurant, they had to have something comped off. Never assume anything about the people that you're talking to, because you do not know. There was a group of 6 people. It was like a $300 tab. It was 1 check, and I had a 0 tip. And they even had something comped off. Like towards the very end, when they asked for the check, they're like, actually, we didn't like this. And the manager took off their whatever they didn't like, and they just didn't tip. And then another lady, it was just one lady, she ordered something to go, and I got tipped $30. So one person gave me more of a tip than a whole $300 tab. Like never expect the amount that you think they're gonna tip you. Yeah, you could be right at times, but they might also surprise you, or in a good and a bad way. You're gonna be like, you know what, I think they're gonna tip me, and then they don't tip you anything. And I personally, I don't get mad when they don't tip me, because it's not their responsibility to tip me. Because I feel like the tipping system is just out of respect. Bonus points if you're a really good server, gave them good service. You know what, they deserve a tip because they were great. But even if people are great, you could still not tip anything because it's not your responsibility. I feel like the system just needs to pay servers more an hour for instances like that. But that's another topic. Different managers will manage differently. Be observant of how your managers operate, because they're not going to be the same. One manager is going to want you to have 4 tables. Another manager is going to want you to have 5 tables. They just can operate differently. I worked at RA Sushi, some people say raw sushi, and there I had the opportunity on Thanksgiving to go to Austin for think it was like 4 days. They paid for everything that I spent. I got reimbursed. And I made money. I made good money. They flew me out to have that opportunity because they were low staffed. So I feel like it could give you opportunities that you wouldn't expect. Some people become leads after a certain time. Some people can become the managers. So just don't think that just because you're a server, you're stuck there. And if you like being a server, that's awesome. There were moments to where I would forget either what a table asked me that they wanted to order, or I forgot to greet a table. There was one time that I forgot to greet a table for like 10, 15 minutes. I don't know how long, but it was a while, to where like they were so chill. Luckily they were so chill. It was a couple and they were playing with like the chopsticks and no one had greeted them. I was supposed to be greeting them. No one had asked them anything. I was supposed to ask them. And it's just really funny now because they were just chilling. They were literally playing with the chopsticks, like in love, looking at each other in the eyes. And when I saw them and I'm like, oh my God, I didn't greet them for this amount of time. I literally went back to grab miso soup. There's some things you can do for free yourself that will help you in a mistake. So again, there was miso soup that we had that actually costs like $8. But sometimes it would be a complimentary thing when you order more than one thing. So what I did, since I could make the miso soup myself, I made the miso soup and I gave it to them. I'm like, hey guys, these are on the house. I'm sorry about that wait. And then I got them free dessert, and you can get a birthday dessert for when it's someone's birthday, but I used that moment to, make up for the time that I wasn't there. And so they ended up tipping really well because I was like giving them that extra service, which I can't be doing that with every table, because if I gave a dessert for everyone, one, the manager would know. Two, it would just be not right. So there's ways to make up for your mistake. I typically don't lie, but I, in my life, have said white lies. And I remember one time a table ordered a dish and I forgot to ring in that dish. Like I completely just forgot about it, right? So I told my table, hey, is everything okay? They told me, yeah, we're still waiting on this plate. So they mentioned the plate, and then in my head, in the moment, I'm like, fuck. But in that moment, with them out loud, I was just like, oh, I think it just needs a couple more minutes. So I have to like fix it right away without them knowing that I forgot. Yeah, I'm not the only server in the world that has committed similar things like this. Like genuinely, people forget to greet their tables. People forget to ring in people's food. Like it is normal. These are normal things that happen as a server. But it's just my experience, my examples. But wanted to get that out there. This is insane, huh? I love it. Love the eyeliner look. I will also say I also forgot to greet another table, and I was just honest. I'm like, hey guys, I got really busy, and I was at fault for not greeting them. People don't like water with ice sometimes. So they're like, yeah, could we get water with no ice? Like I remember there was like a group of 6 and I brought them, all the water is ready to go. Even if they want a Coke later, like I feel like people often want waters. I was about to put in their tables and then all of them were like, could we get water with no ice? So sometimes when you want to be prepared, it's just better to ask. Don't get me wrong. There's also amazing moments to where they're so thankful that I grabbed the water without me asking. They're like, oh my God, thank you. I was so thirsty. I feel like it's going to be inevitable that there's going to be drama. Not necessarily with you, but around you. Just with so many people, it just happens. Ooh, another thing. The first day that I started working as a server, I clocked in. I swear to God, as soon as I clocked in, they were like, Cassandra, can you take these 2 tables? And I was like, yeah, let's get it. Let's do it. Because I was like excited, you know, it was my first day. It was like really intense at first. I was like, oh my God, like I'm already taking 2 tables. I don't even get a second to like think about it. But in those scenarios where you don't have time to think, it's one of the best things because you just have to act. There's times where people sometimes don't want to take a table. So some servers could be like, dude, I don't want to take this table. Can you take it? I'm gonna say you could have the bad luck with it. If you're like, you know what, I'll take it, and you get tipped like a little bit. But honestly, majority of the time where I've picked up a table from a server that didn't want it, I got tipped pretty good. And so I would say if someone doesn't want a table, take the opportunity to make that extra money. If you're not like drowning in busyness, I feel like you should take that extra table. And this is gonna be really shallow of me. I had 5 tables, and most of them were, you know, almost done eating, so they were on the verge of about to leave, and I was about to leave too. But this hot couple came in. When I tell you, when they were both so hot, like I was like, oh my God, they look like celebrities. I was like, I want them. Like not like that, but like I wanted to take care of them as like a server. Like I wanted to interact with them, you know. And so I told the host, hey, can I take them? And I was like one of the only servers there, so they're like, yeah, I mean, you can take it. And so I took them, and they tipped really good too. And then they came like 2 other times, and they were just really nice. Like I loved their energy. They weren't just hot, they were amazing people. Like I could sense the energy, and that's what I love, when people are beautiful on the inside, on the outside, and I could just tell. It's gonna be cliche, but you know how people say be yourself? I feel like be yourself. Don't be afraid to show your personality rather than being like this robotic thing, because people like, they love that. People love, I was gonna say like that, but people love that. Of course there's people that don't care for your personality and they just want their food, they're ready to order. But when people would be like that, like let's say like I'm like, hey, my name's Cassandra, and they're like, Dr. Pepper and a water. Like they wouldn't even let me talk. They would just start ordering. Some people, they get really triggered by that. They're like, wow, they didn't even let me say a word in. But me personally, yeah, maybe subconsciously I could be like, damn, I didn't even get a word in. Like that hurt my little ego, my little heart. But at the same time, it's like, no, they're making my job easier. Like they know what they want. They'd be like, I want this or this. They finish eating and they're like, check. Like, yeah, they didn't pay much attention to me, but it's like a table that I can flip quickly, and that means the tables that, you know, are there, they leave quickly, and that means more people can come, and they're just like making more money the faster that table leaves. I would recommend being a server. I feel like everyone needs to be a server at one point, just to see the behind the scenes. I like seeing the behind the scenes and understanding how things work. Because when I was little, I used to think that a server would just have one table at a time. That would be my naive mindset. Like I was younger and I was like, oh, we're the only table. Like, why are they taking so long? Where are they? Try to dress nice. And I will say this because whenever I know that I look good, I feel even more good. And I get seen in a way where I look like more put together. So people like that. Unfortunately, you know, many of the times people will treat you how you look. And don't get me wrong, there's times where I did not get ready. I was just like, right now, like I have no makeup. I'm just all natural. But when I'd be at work and, you know, I'd get ready, I just feel more confident.